So hello everybody, I'm Shaun McCarthy. I'm a Director of Action Sustainability Community Interest Company. We host and sponsor ISO 2400.org, which is a global community of practice around sustainable procurement. It's early May 2024 and I'm very excited because we've just launched a new version of our self-assessment, and what I'd like to do in this video is to take you through it. So I'm just going to share my screen. So this is the homepage of ISO 2400.org. Some of you may be familiar with it. On here, there's lots of resources related to sustainable procurement, lots of videos, case studies, podcasts, really people from around the world in multiple languages sharing their experience and sharing their story around sustainable procurement. But what we did quite some time ago was we created a self-assessment. What this was a simple 20 questions. Ask yourself 20 questions about your sustainable procurement practice, and the system will give you some idea of how you stack up against the standard. It's not a full audit, it's not professional advice, it's just something nice and simple that says if you want to have a rough idea of how you're doing, then you can use this self-assessment tool. And it's been used thousands of times around the world, both as an online version and also as a PDF version. But when we started to think about how useful is this tool really, yes, it asks you some questions. You can get a self-assessment, you can get some idea of how you're doing against the standard, but it doesn't really explain the questions. The questions are very much written in kind of ISO speak. It doesn't really provide you with any advice around what you should do, and it doesn't provide you with any action planning. So that's what we've tried to do. We've tried to fix that, and I'm going to take you through it today so you can take a look at how well the application works, and if you like it, you can give it a try. So ISO 2400.org, I'm already logged in. If you're not logged in as a member of the community, then you would have to register. And if you want to take a self-assessment, we'd ask you some very simple and anonymized information about where you are, who you are, what type of sector you work in, what size of business you have, so we can collect some data in the back. We don't share any of that information. It's all completely anonymous, and I can assure you that everything you see on this site is completely free of charge. We will never ask you for money. So I'm going to click on Take the Self-Assessment. Okay, so as you can see here, it's taken me to my dashboard. I click on Take a New Self-Assessment. Very, very simple. So this is the new self-assessment. You will see that it's all in English. It's available at the moment in English only. So for instance, if I switch to Spanish, I'll still get the self-assessment in Spanish, but I don't get the guidance. So guidance is only available at this moment in time in English. So here we are at the introduction. So you've got a nice welcome message that actually tells you what you're doing, tells you what sort of results you could expect. But you don't have to read it because we have audio guidance at every stage.
Welcome to our self-assessment tool. You can self-assess your organization's progress towards alignment with ISO 2400 by answering 20 simple questions at any time, as often as you wish.
So at any stage during the process, you just need to click on the little speaker here and you'll get some audio guidance. So that's the welcome. And then I get into the questions themselves. Now, I'm not going to explain each and every question because actually the system does that for you now. So first question, does your organization's policy and strategy reflect material sustainability impacts of your supply chains and organizational drivers to sustainable procurement? And then there's a definition there for you. This is a question about the policy at the top of your organization. Your policy should be a high-level document setting out your priorities, which reflect your organizational drivers, but also acknowledge your supply chain's role in delivery. So all the way through the system, it gives you nice, friendly advice of the sorts of things that you should be considering. So I'm going to give that a score of 2 because I'm an organization that doesn't have a particularly good set of values at the moment around sustainability. So you will see what appears below is some guidance. This is what you need to do. So You need a policy that reflects your organisation's values and overall aims. It will be helpful to conduct a driver's exercise as described in section 4.4 of the standard. So that's referring back to ISO 2400. Maybe your organisation has already carried out a materiality exercise to comply with certification systems such as the Global Reporting Initiative. So whatever you score, the guidance changes. So if I change that to a 3, I get different guidance, because as a 3, I've got some sort of policy document, but it may not be fit for purpose. So the system provides me with some guidance as to what I should do next. Now, each of these is fairly similar, so I'm going to just take you through some random scores as we go through. And don't forget, at each stage, you can click on the speaker and the system will talk to you. It will give you the same friendly guidance that you can read on the screen, but actually you can take it on board as audio guidance, which, as I said, some people prefer to have. So, next section, integrating sustainability into the organization's procurement and strategy. Once again, a guide there to each and every question. So if I say score that a 4, and that's saying, well done, you clearly have top management commitment. You may want to consider embedding this into the way you manage your suppliers. For example, you could arrange annual reviews at a senior management level with your critical suppliers. So this is an organisation that scored fairly well in that area, and it's suggesting how you might go towards really moving towards best practice. So I scored the next one at a 2. About accountability. So, I might have leadership at the top, but I might not have the best in getting accountabilities really nailed into my organisation. Next one, I'm going to score a 3, just purely at random. Let's do a 2 there and move on to the next section. Governing procurement. So one question about governance there, and again, a definition, some very clearly defined words that describe what you should be scoring and how you should be scoring. So this one is about enabling people, so training, advice, guidance for people, etc. I've scored a 3 for that. Question 9 is all about individuals building their capability. I'll score a 1 for that, very low score. So if I score a low score, it says you should start with a simple training needs analysis. You need to map the skills required to deliver each of your sustainability goals against your key job roles. This will help you to understand what training and support will be needed. So a low score will tell you where to start. As I've said, this is all completely anonymous, so I'd certainly encourage you to be honest. If you're at the start of your journey and you're not really doing very much, then say so, because if you do try to overemphasize maybe what you're doing, the system will just give you guidance at a higher level than you need at this moment in time. So do be honest and tell us exactly where you think you are on your sustainable procurement journey. As I said, even we can't see these scores by individual organisation. All we can see is aggregated information on the back end of the system. So working my way through the questions, so I've got a question here about a grievance mechanism. So no, maybe I haven't got one. So there's some guidance there that suggests how you might want to take it forward. Integrating sustainability into the procurement process is the final set of questions, and that's all about percentages, how much of your procurement, how many of your contracts, your tender activities, etc., actually incorporate sustainability. So this is the really doing it section of the guide, if you like. Okay, so I get to the end of question 20. So I get some instructions at the end, which also I can get in audio if I wish to do so. And then I can click submit and go to my results, or indeed I can go back if I wish to, if I'm reconsidering maybe some of the questions, or maybe I'm in a group of people facilitating a session and that might want to go back and discuss some of those issues. Then you can just hit the back button and you can go back. So I hit submit and go to my results. So here's the results screen. You can see what you saw before. The system will produce you a nice radar diagram that tells you how well you're doing against benchmarks. So the orange trace here is the trace of the evaluation that I've just done. You can benchmark yourself against the average benchmark this calendar year. and also the best benchmark this calendar year. So you can get some understanding of where you stand against the standard. You can go down into more detail and to get further guidance. So if I scroll to summary, this takes me down, it provides more guidance against each point on the radar diagram. So this is different to the guidance that you had against each question, because it's actually rolling up your response to each of the sections that appear in the standard. So the numbers that you see here are the numbers that appear in the standard. So it gives some analysis of how well you've scored, and it gives some advice on how you might want to go forward. Once again, this is all available in audio as well as being available in text. So lots of guidance throughout the whole process. You can also get some detailed scores here against each of the sections of the standard to understand where you stand against the benchmarks. So you can start to think about developing a plan to take things forward. And actually the system helps you to do that as well, because you can get an action plan. So if I click here, scroll to my action plan, it takes me all the way to the bottom, and it gives me a bespoke action plan based on how I've scored against each of the sections of the standard and each of the 20 questions. This is much more formal looking. This is something that you can actually download as a PDF, and you can take it to your boss and say, this is my action plan. You can also even make some notes. You can actually record the status of each of the actions as you go through. So you can use it as a live document. This is something that is going to really help you with planning. And this is something where our stakeholders have said, well, it's all very well knowing where I am against the standard, but actually, what should I do? You can ignore some of these actions as well. So if some of them aren't applicable to you as an organization, then you can simply take them out. So if I say facilitate regular reviews between top management and senior management from key suppliers, you might say, look, I'm a small business, it's not something really that I think is relevant to my business. I can just click ignore action and the system will take it out. If I change my mind and want to put it back again, I can click restore action and I can restore it back into the system. The other really interesting thing I can do then is I can download the whole thing as a PDF. So this is the action plan downloaded as a PDF. As you can see, it's dated. It's made very clear that this is part of a self-assessment and that it came from ISO2400.org. It also emphasizes that this is an auto-generated self-assessment based on verified information. So it's not professional advice. It's not based on any sort of an audit. And we need to make that clear, obviously. This is based on where you're telling the system that you're at with your sustainable procurement journey. And then the system will actually provide you with a nice action plan all the way through. So each of the status are not started, obviously, but you can scroll through these various actions. There's one action against each of the questions. If you work your way through them, then you can go back and self-assess and hopefully show some progress in what you're doing around your sustainable procurement journey. We find it really useful. It's certainly from feedback that we've had from some of our audience on the site. They were really very excited about getting some action planning functionality that can really help them to understand how they take their journey. Once again, I would emphasize the action plan is bespoke based on the score that you give the system. It's not a generic action plan. It's actually based on the score that you declare. So please do be honest with the system and as realistic as you can in terms of where you are with the journey, and it will give you a really good action plan like this that you can start to work through with your colleagues. So that's it, really. As I said, we're very excited about it. We feel that this is something that will really benefit people to get on the move with their sustainable procurement journey, whether they've started at the beginning or whether you're partway through and don't quite understand what the next steps are. This system will be able to help you. It's free of charge. You just need to register on ISO2400.org. You can self-assess as often as you like, and you can share this information with anybody you wish. Thanks very much for listening to me. I do hope you enjoy our new self-assessment tool.